We're also here to manage the time. We have a lot of speakers, which is terrific. And so we need to stay on time with our 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll be assisting you with that. Here's how we're going to capture what you have to say. First of all, we're all listening to each other. Second of all, we are recording this verbatim for transcripts. There will be a forever video of today. And additionally, as facilitators, we're going to be taking notes for the key findings for a final report. So many different ways your voice is going to count today.
So I want to just cover some next steps after this, these listening sessions. So what's going to happen is that the key findings will be made into a report that will be provided to City Council. Also, there will be a random survey sent out to voters, and it will be available to anyone who wants to fill out the survey online. So it's available to everybody. If you do not have comments today, there are many opportunities to provide comments. Each meeting has its own link on the website, the Speak Up for VB, and it's at the publicinput.com URL. You can also leave a voicemail at the city at 855-925-2801. And if you have another issue for the city that does not involve the elections process, you can email jtorres@vbgov.com. Another thing that will be happening is that there will be a report from the legal team to provide the city council options to consider as they decide how to proceed with the elections and the composition of your city council and school board. The consideration by council will happen later this summer after all the input is received. I will say that this is a very comprehensive process, one of the most comprehensive I've seen in my career, that there are so many hearings and this is all about you. So today is about your input, your thoughts, your feelings about the elections here in Virginia Beach and the process. But first, we're going to start with a short video that was put together by the city of Virginia Beach, explaining basically some of the history and how we got here today. Yes, and I can cover that toward the end. And right, and just during this thing, if you have questions, it's okay to pose them. They will be captured in a transcript. None of us will be able to answer questions about the city's process, though, on voting, but but please continue the questions. Thank you.
Since 1967. The city charter defined our local election system as having 11 members. 4 were chosen at large with no residency requirement, including the mayor, and 7 more were elected at large, but had to reside within one of the former districts. The charter also stated that school board members would be elected in the same manner as their city council counterparts. In November 2017, a lawsuit was filed against the city. The suit alleged that the at-large system violated the Federal Voting Rights Act by diluting the voting power of minorities. Specifically, the plaintiffs contended that the former voting system diluted the voting strength of a coalition of Black, Hispanic, and Asian minority groups. The city defended the lawsuit, contending that no single minority group was large and compact enough to constitute a majority within a single voting district. The city also asserted that it was not reasonable to combine Black voters with Asian and Hispanic voters, since Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act did not authorize combining minority groups, and that the 3 minority groups specifically mentioned do not vote cohesively as one group. While the lawsuit was pending, the Virginia General Assembly considered and adopted legislation that would require changes to the election system, regardless of the outcome of the case. House Bill 2198 made it so that localities with district or ward-based residency requirements for members of a governing body must elect its members by the qualified members of that district or ward, and not by the locality at large. Further, House Bill 1890 and Senate Bill 1395, known as the Virginia Voting Rights Act, clarified that any at-large method of election shall not be imposed by the governing body in a manner that impairs the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of its choice or its ability to influence an election. Both pieces of legislation also apply to school boards. In March of 2021, the district court said that the city's voting system violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The court concluded that the coalition claims were legally permissible and that the minority groups specifically mentioned in the case were politically cohesive. The court prohibited the city from using the former system in any future elections. Following the March 2021 ruling of the district court, a special master created new election district maps for the city using data from the 2020 census, ensuring they were equally populated. They were drawn in a manner that, in the court's view, would allow a sufficient majority of minority populations to facilitate the election of minority groups' candidates of choice, including the creation of 3 minority opportunity districts. Under the new 10-1 system, 10 city council members and 10 school board members are elected from each of the districts. Only the mayor continues to be elected at large and can reside anywhere in the city. The city appealed the district court's decision to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. In July of 2022, a 3-judge panel ruled that the lower court erred in its decision and vacated the district court's decisions and remedy. This decision left the city free to consider options other than the 10-1 system in future elections. However, it was too late to effectively implement a new system in time for the November 2022 election cycle. In November of 2022, residents went to the polls and cast their votes for the city council and school board candidates of their choice using the 10-1 system that had been ordered by the district court. 161,753 ballots were cast, and the outcome was the election of the city's most diverse slate of representatives. Since the court order that implemented the 10-1 system is no longer in effect, and the former system of electing local representatives is still on the books in the city charter, it became apparent that City Council would need to formally adopt a new method in time for the 2024 elections. In order to ensure that residents had a say in the direction that City Council opts to pursue, they passed a resolution in December of 2022 to begin a community engagement campaign to educate and inform residents on what legally viable options are available for the city. Following the community engagement period, Virginia Beach residents will be asked to participate in a survey in April. A random sampling of residents will receive a survey in the mail. However, an online version will be available to all residents, with results shared with council and the community this summer. In conclusion, a decision on our election system must be made by City Council in time for the 2024 election. Thank you for joining us today. This is your opportunity to provide input on city policy development and decision-making.
So we want to thank Virginia Beach for that video. And now we're going to get to it. We have a lot of speakers and we have to conclude on time. Most of our speakers are here in person. We will go first from here, all of our registered speakers. Then we'll go to our live stream speakers. If there's any time left and the spirit moves and you wish to speak, we will make time for you within the 90 minutes that we have here. Let's talk about how this is going to work. Many of you may have noticed this microphone when you came in. Your name will be called and you will come to the microphone. We'll actually call 2 names at a time so the second person can cue so that we don't have a time waiting period in between speakers. We have a timer set up that'll go off at 2 minutes and 45 seconds, letting you know you have 15 seconds to conclude. Many of our speakers in the past sessions have not needed their 3 minutes, but in case you come right up to 3 minutes, we would really appreciate you finishing to allow the next speaker to go. When you're done, if this is why you came, to give comment, and you want to leave, please feel free to. If you'd like to stay and listen to the rest of the speakers, we'd love for you to do that as well. This has worked very well in the last sessions. We do not want any sound effects in reaction to what people are saying. So that's very distracting to speakers. It may be intimidating to others, and it's very confusing for our people listening live stream. But we do have a way for you to show your support, not voice your support. If someone's up at the mic and you like what they're saying, wave your hand. We're going to be counting those hands to show that there's emphasis behind what that particular speaker is saying. Okay. And I think Charnel is going to take us through this.
All right.
Elise is going to time, and I'm taking notes.
All right, let's have our first speaker. Yes, we're ready.
Good morning. Our first speaker is Rona Marsh. After Rona Marsh will be Sandy Harris. Yes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much. My name is Ronna Marsh. I live in Thalia. And I wanted to say I am strongly in favor of the 10-1 system. We have an excellent council person, Chris Taylor. He's been doing an excellent job getting out to Civic League meetings and answering phone calls and emails. And we've had more input from him and more concern than I can recall from any of the previous people who represented Lynn Haven or District 8. I know that I've talked to a lot of people in the city, and many, many people are very concerned about our taxes and want tax relief. They really are disappointed that the city is raising our taxes on our properties so much, and many people are concerned that they're going to have to move. So it might be a lovely 10-1 system, but if you have to sell your house and move because the property taxes have gone up so much, you can't afford to stay here, that would be sad. So thank you for having this listening session, and we definitely want to keep the 10-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sandy Harris. After Sandy Harris is Frederick Ford.
Good morning.
I haven't made up my mind yet, but it seems to me that the 10-1 system may be more divisive than the former system.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Ford. After Frederick Ford will be Martin Nicely.
Good morning, everyone. My last name is F-O-A-R-D. I'm not related to the Ford Motor Company. I'm in favor of the 10-1 system personally, but also because I represent the Virginia Beach African American Political Action Council. It's not a political action committee. We don't raise funds or participate in anyone's campaign, and we don't do anything that's politically involved, other than vetting candidates, which we've been doing for almost 2 decades through a pretty detailed process where we ask them to fill out a questionnaire, and if they do so, we invite them for personal interviews. So I've been involved in this process for about 6 or 7 elections. And we seem to, in the past, be getting the same old people who have been part of the old boy network that's been in charge here in Virginia Beach for years. But this last time, under the 10-1 system, we got what was intended with the lawsuit and with the law that was passed by the state, that you cannot have citywide elections. We got fresh faces. At least 4 of the people that we endorsed won elections, and they wouldn't have won it before because in most cases they couldn't have afforded to have run citywide. And they wouldn't have put their hat in the ring because they would have been intimidated by the old process. So it works. It does what it was intended to do and what the court says that we should do and what the state says we should do. So we're here because The folks that were in charge don't like the results of the last elections. Uh, So they would like to change things back to some method that would put them back in the dominant power that they used to have.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Martin Nicely. The next speaker will be Melissa Lukeson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Martin Nicely. First of all, I'd like to give you my personal opinion. And my personal opinion is that this study is a waste of taxpayer money. There are certainly other pressing issues that the city council could find to spend $300,000 of taxpayer money, our money. There are several reasons to leave the election of city council members like we used in November of 2022. Number one, it saves the candidates some money. They don't have to put up their yard signs all over the city, only in the district that they are running in. Number two, residents of the district that the candidates are running in will get to know their candidates better, how they stand on the issues. Having only 2 candidates to become familiar with instead of 12 or more candidates to try to figure out where each one stands on the issues. Number 3, taxpayers will save money because the city will not have to send crews to take down the hundreds of yard signs that will be left all over the city. Not having to have this large expense will save taxpayer money. Only having signs in the district that the candidate ran in means less signs have to pick up. Number 4, voting last November was very easy and smooth. Saving taxpayer money should be the concern of every every city council member or candidate running for office. Thank you for listening to a concerned senior citizen.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Melissa Lukeson. Following Ms. Lukeson will be Angela Edmonds.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay. I can.
Probably won't have a problem hearing me. Uh, At last night's public hearing, a resident looked at me and said, "You must be a Democrat." My response was, "I am unapologetically pro-democracy, and everyone in this room should be too. While this is about politics, this should not be partisan. Thomas Jefferson said, 'Equal rights for all, special privileges for none.'" So much irony from a man who owns 600 humans as property. But anyways, this city has a long history of special privileges, but not equal rights. In 1938, Virginia Beach required any Black person who worked at the resort or in the nearby homes to be fingerprinted, photographed, and registered by the police or with the police. UVA historian and professor Andrew Carl wrote in a study about the history of Virginia Beach that the town, in effect, made being Black, not at work, and anywhere near the beach a criminal act. In 1951, a group of African Americans filed a lawsuit after they were told they couldn't enter Seashore State Park in Princess Anne County. After the Supreme Court ruled against segregation in public schools, the state eventually opted to close Seashore in 1955 instead of opening it to Black residents. Did you know it wasn't until 1969 that Virginia Beach complied and fully integrated schools? White flight paved the way for the resort area and the Princess Anne County to merge in 1963. The population growth of 172,000 residents that were 95% white in the 60s created a system that gave white people all the political power and led to historic disenfranchisement of our minority communities. We did not elect our first African American councilperson until 1986. I was 10 years old. The first time we had 2 Black council members at the same time was in 2019. The court-ordered 10-1 system delivered the youngest, most diverse council in history. We tried in 1994 to get a ballot referendum to end at-large voting. It passed by a clear majority of 52.7%, but they rewrote the 1994 referendum with ambiguous and deceptive language and presented that to voters in 1996, which kept an all-at-large system in place until 2022. In 2020, former council member Jessica Abbott tried to pass a resolution for a ballot referendum. Unfortunately, it failed with the 7-4 vote. The members of city council that voted against getting voter input in 2020 are the same ones who spent $10 million fighting the Holloway case when they could have settled for $1.6 million. They authorized almost $400,000 to rush these community input meetings because the results of the election on 10-1 threatens the status quo. The councilman that currently represents District 8, where we are convened right now, does support the 10-1 system based on his votes, and he and I do not share the same political ideology, but he understands that this is about democracy. So if you are a strong proponent of 10-1 and live in District 8, please be sure to let Chris Taylor know how you feel. I do have copies of the 2020 resolution and council members' votes for 2020 and 2023. Please see me if you'd like to look at it.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Angela Edmonds. Following Angela Edmonds will be Catherine O'Reilly. Then our next speaker is Catherine O'Reilly. Following Catherine O'Reilly will be Carolyn Kaywood.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've been in the Tidewater area since 1969, most of the time in the Bayside area. I think the 10-1 system is very good because it allows the person who's running for office to campaign effectively and efficiently without becoming impoverished. I also believe that the campaign should focus on the concerns of that particular district, and hopefully the candidate would know what they're talking about. I, as I said, live in Bayside. I know there are all issues that the whole city has, but there are issues that other districts have that I haven't a clue of, like Blackwater or Pungo. And I think when we vote for the person in our own district, we're getting the best representation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Carolyn Kaywood. Following Carolyn Kaywood will be Mindy Friedman.
Welcome.
Good morning and thank you. When I moved here in 1979, I was told that the reason for our peculiar system of electing city council was that the population was so mixed that there was no way to draw minority districts. I think the district court that decided that in fact there was a way to do that has been proven correct by the election we just held. And I'm not really pleased about the $4 million that City Council spent trying to overturn that decision. And I certainly don't want them throwing good money after bad to reorganize how we vote when we had such a successful election. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Mindy Friedman. The next speaker will be Robert Pizzini.
Good morning. I'll be
Morning.
brief. Just wanted to thank you guys for allowing us to come and speak our voice. I've been a resident. This is my 20th year living in Virginia Beach. I think I'm definitely in favor of the 10-1 system. I worked the election polls this year. It was easy. It was smooth. I did not hear one person complain about it. The campaign made it easier for the council member to campaign within their district. They knocked on every door. They met their constituents. I now personally know my councilman by name. He saw me in Target yesterday. We chatted. I email him often. He responds quickly. I don't think that I should be voting for somebody's council person in Kempsville because I don't know their issues. When I'm at the beach, we have separate issues that need to be taken care of by a person that knows our area specifically. This election also had the youngest and most diverse council in our history of Virginia Beach, which is a true representation of our area and the citizens that live here. So I am in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Robert Pizzini. The next speaker will be Susan Potter.
Morning.
Good morning. Is it okay if I speak to the group? Thank you, sir. Good morning. My name is Bob Pizzini. I've lived in Virginia Beach for 17 years. I own and operate a small business at the oceanfront called I Fly Virginia Beach Indoor Skydiving. Prior to that, I served in the U.S. Navy for 26 years, U.S. Navy Special Operations. When it was time to retire 13 years ago, my wife and I who have lived all over the United States and abroad decided that Virginia Beach, Virginia was the best place to raise our children, who were 2 at the time and they're 18 now. We believed it then, and we believe it now. The 10-1 system is a step in the right direction, but it does not go far enough. It's not even a 10-1 system. It's a ward, W-A-R-D. It's a ward system. 10-1 is the math. We have 10 wards or 10 districts and 1 mayor who's elected at large. That's why it's the slang or the jargon is 10-1. But this is a ward or a district system. It's a big step in the right direction. When Virginia Beach was chartered in 1967, per the video, we had 11 representatives for the city. We currently have 11. Our population has almost doubled since then. So our 10-1, what we're calling 10-1, is a good move. It's a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. We should add at least 3 at-large seats to that system. Right now, your voice, supported by your vote, does not extend beyond your district. Your voice, supported by your vote, should extend to things in your city. You should have a voice for things in the city in which you reside that extends beyond your district. And then there's the money aspect of it that we've heard, and I've watched the videos for the last 4 days. Money is part of any election system. It doesn't matter if we have 10-1, ward, district, at large, money's part of it. And that's just part of the system. So don't be fooled by people who say that, influence is going to be greater or less. Your voice, your vote in your district and in your city. If you believe what you read on the internet, Virginia Beach was the second most integrated city in the United States about 2 years ago. Second to Portland, Oregon, which was the first most integrated city. Portland has a 100% at-large system. 10-1 is a giant step in the right direction, but it does not go far enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Susan Potter. Next speakers are Donna and Michael Hubner.
Thank you. I would like to thank the courageous citizens of our city, some of whom are here today, who have fought for decades to overcome the legacy of racism in the city of Virginia Beach. You have heard about the amazing progress our city has made just in the last year. This progress occurred thanks to the action of the federal court in abolishing our old at-large discriminatory legacy election system that illegally diluted the votes of Black, Asian, and Hispanic citizens. It occurred thanks to the court's adoption of the new 10-1 district-based voting system. Unfortunately, a few of our legacy city council members are trying to derail this train to the future. That starts with mischaracterizing the status of the court case, Holloway and Georgia Allen versus City of Virginia Beach, that led all of us to this moment. This case is still pending before the court. It's assigned to federal judge Raymond Jackson, who has had it all along. Judge Jackson recently retired and took senior status. He still has this case. No matter what we do here, Judge Jackson will have the final word. Our legacy council members were elected under the old illegal at-large system. They should have settled this Voting Rights Act case long ago, sparing us shame and expense. Instead, they have fought this loser of a case for years, using millions and millions of our tax dollars, trying to drag the case out to an unjust conclusion. The Fourth Circuit did not dismiss this case. The Fourth Circuit vacated Judge Jackson's ruling because of a new law that went into effect a week or so after the ruling. This new law made it illegal to elect city council members from a residence district by a vote from all citizens at large. Instead, only the voters in a particular district could vote for their city council member. So the old legacy system was not only illegal under the Federal Voting Rights Act, it was double illegal under the new law. The Fourth Circuit's ruling was a temporary technicality. Legacy council members have absurdly seized on this temporary pit stop on the journey to justice to claim final victory. These vintage council members insist that we must adopt a new system as if the court had rejected the 10-1 system. They're trying to get us to revert to the past by adopting a system that the court has already found illegal. Well, they're wrong. This is third grade math. Thanks to the 10-1 system, we now have 4 Black council members of both political parties. Citywide, we now have a total minority population of about 40.2%. If these legacy council members succeed in adopting any version of an at-large system, that will once again dilute the minority vote, will once again violate the Federal Voting Rights Act, and Judge Jackson will once again reverse it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Current speakers are Donna and Michael Hubner. The next speaker will be Philip Griever.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Our next speaker is Philip Griever. Following Philip Griever will be Ann Walker.
Welcome.
I moved to Virginia Beach in 2002, and every time they've had an election, I didn't know who my representative was, and I didn't know what they were standing for, what they were going to change. The other thing is, as far as voting, the last time I talked about elections, we had supposedly people voting for dead relatives. My thing is, why don't they do voting like they do on I-9? You have to have 2 identifications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Ann Walker. The next speaker will be Dave Wimhoff.
I'm Ann Walker, and I live in the Rose Hall District. I am for the 10-1 that we had the last time because they know our problems, and they're completely different than I have a friend who didn't sleep last night. She's lived on oceanfront for 54 years, and she told me she was in favor of this too. And I think without it, there would be not fair representation for the Blacks or other minorities in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Dave Wimhoff. Following Dave Wimhoff will be James Burke.
Mr. Wimhoff. Yeah.
Then the next speaker is James Burke. Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Jim Burke. I've been a very, very happy member of the city of Virginia Beach since 68, when I came back from Nam. I don't have any problem with this 10-1 system or anything of that nature. My problem is my party, everything about my party. It doesn't matter whether my party is right or my party is wrong or my party doesn't really give a rat's. It's all about my party. I would love to see a system where we vote for qualified people to take care of our city. I don't want state people telling the city of Virginia Beach what we need to do. We are educated people. We can take care of our taxes. We can take care of those people who have problems in putting food on their table or rent. I've been involved in many charitable things in my life. And the thing on the inside of here is I want to see Virginia Beach take care of Virginia Beach. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Martha Thoreau. Following Martha Thoreau will be Robert Harrison. And I do apologize if I mispronounce any names.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Martha Thoreau, and I probably have lived here the longest. I kind of suspect I've lived here for the most part since 1955. I live in the house that my dad built in his second career after retiring from the Navy for 31 years. He went into real estate and was a site salesman for my neighborhood. And when I graduated from ODU, I went into real estate as well back in '77. That was, the city is all excited about 60 years being a city, but I've been here and lived here when it was Princess Anne County. So being in real estate, I've seen a lot of development and experienced a lot of change. I used to like the being able to vote for everyone. I was naive to think that my vote made a difference. My vote didn't make a difference, nor did most of your votes when you're voting for people across town. The people have followed local politics closely. I like to call it as Virginia Beach turns. Since 2000, I watch every city council meeting and workshop, as well as planning commission events, their meetings. And I know the players. I know who influences who. I've seen the money influence people, sadly to say. And this latest election, I again follow politics closely, local politics especially. And I was hearing, and candidates were being questioned on, do you support the 10-1 system? It was dicey to answer that question, and some would talk out of both sides of their mouths to get elected. And some there, even though it's nonpartisan, local politics are supposed to be nonpartisan, it has become more and more partisan. And so people are looking for support by parties. The thing that worries me, the subject came up, well, 10-1, just like the gentleman that owns iFly, who is part of the business community here, it's a good place to start. Well, no, what happens when you get a majority, if you water it down with 3 hybrid at-large people, first off, the money is going to buy those candidates. They are going to be the people who will change the majority vote of anything that matters for the city as a whole. Another little item, I live along the Shore Drive corridor. I'm in District 9 and adjacent to District 8. I talked to District 8 guy, Chris Taylor, he's a Republican. He's a great guy. I think he's an honorable and intelligent guy. Josh Schulman, same, he leans left. But they both represent Shore Drive. I know a boatload of people along Shore Drive. So I talk to my neighbors along Shore Drive as well as the councilman in 8 and 6. I own a piece of property in 6, so I share the wealth down there too. They can talk to one another and they can make a difference. If we elect honorable people, we'll be all right.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Robert Harrison. The next speaker will be Brian Sullivan.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Robert Harrison. I've been a voter here in Virginia Beach for a fair amount of years. When I first retired back here, I said, why am I voting for these people I don't know? And until 2022, I always believed my vote was being diluted by the at-large system. 2022, I had the opportunity to vote in a directed election. I knew the people, and I believe now I have an advocate. I may not always agree with that person, but I have an advocate for my area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Brian Sullivan, and the next speaker will be Roger Doherty.
My name is Brian Sullivan. Just a little bit of a historical perspective. Back in 1960, the population of Virginia Beach was about 8,000. So if you had an at-large system to, watch out for 8,000 people, that's probably going to work. So you can kind of see how the system kind of got started. But back in 1963, with the addition of Princess Anne, it had 77,000 people. Virginia Beach kind of morphed into an 85,000 of people, and which is a much larger group. And at that point, ruling by at large tends to be difficult because there are just so many different needs that drew overnight that it just seems to be ineffective. Then we had according to the film, the 1967, when they created the voting system that we have today, would have been a perfect opportunity to go into a district system or a ward system which would have covered the needs, because Pungo is not the same as Town Center, not the same as the oceanfront. At that point, it would have been pretty much apparent that the needs of the city are growing and it's wobbling around. You need representation for everybody, not just a small group. I think the important part is the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So in 1967, it was a knowing violation. I just can't believe that the people who created the system, because it is rather complex and self-sustaining, did not realize that they were violating the Voting Rights Act. I think you got to kind of keep that one in mind, which really kind of makes government ineffective for so many people, particularly when you have a growing population and a diverse population that is growing. By 1970, we had 170,000 people. By 1990, we had over 400,000 people. The at-large system just is not going to keep pace with that type of population growth. It just can't do it. When you have that type of at-large system, it's going to devolve into rule by faction, which seems to be what the city has been suffering from for quite some time now. The money interests take over, and a small group is going to focus on what their needs are, and they are not going to pay a whole lot of attention to everybody else. Again, by 2020, we have almost 450,000 people in the city. And if you just take the district maps away and just look at the city, our minority population is really pretty heavy in the western third.
15 seconds.
The idea of faction is not new. It was debated well back in our founding times by our fellow Virginia James Madison in the Federalist Papers. He said the best way to avoid the rule by faction is to have district systems. That's why we have, CD2 on the federal level. We don't elect any federal candidates as an at-large system. So the constitutional system is actually built in there, and Judge Jackson's decision put that in place to keep factions from ruling the city. I totally support the 10-1 system, and I thank you very much for your efforts here today.
Our current speaker is Roger Doherty. The next speaker will be Mindy Huff.
Okay, yeah. Speaking.
Right, I'm right into the feedback.
Good morning. My name is Roger Doherty, and I've lived here since 1992. I'm in favor of the 10-1 system because I will tell you, when I used to vote before, I had to make my decision based on, I'm going into the polling place and I see the last name on one of those signs. And I said, oh, that's the person I'll vote for, but never knew who they were. Now I know who my person is. Oh, I also used to leave my ballot blank. Now I know I'm in District 4. It's Dr. Rose Hammond. I've seen her, I've talked to her, I knew everything about it. And finally, we get some support for my section of the city. Again, I'm total in favor of the 10-1 system. And also, I'm a poll worker for the city of Virginia Beach for the last 14 years. And I heard one person said earlier, this was one of the easiest voting that people actually knew who they were voting for city council and school board. Thank you. Thanks for your service.
Our current speaker is Mindy Huff. The next speaker will be Roger Bramlett.
Great morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to have all of our voices heard. My name is Mindy Huff. My husband is the reason why we're here. He was active duty for over 30 years, and we settled here. Now he's retired, thank the Lord, but we are here, and I am in 100% in favor of the 10-1 system. It makes no sense for us to revert backwards because this system gives our voices a louder voice because someone is representing our district. They understand the needs of our district. So as not just a mom who raised her children, parents who raised their children through the school board system as well, all of our kids graduated from Virginia Beach Public Schools, but I'm also a business owner as well. I want my voice to be heard in my district, and that is by someone who lives and represents my district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Roger Bramlett. The next speaker will be Maureen Fuster.
Good morning. My name is Roger Bramlett Jr. I came here with no preconceived notion. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know what this was about. Somebody suggested that this might have been a waste of taxpayers' money. It is not. This is a good thing. I'm here to tell you that I learned something. I learned that this 10-1 is the right thing for us. It is an opportunity for us to truly be represented. When you cast your vote, it really counts. The brother, Vietnam veteran, you say, it's not about party unless you're going to have a party and you need some ice. That's the only party we should be interested in. We're about doing what we need to be the best possible citizens that we can be. So I just want to thank you for what we're doing and how we can be the best possible people that we can be.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Maureen Fuster. The next speaker will be Henderson Vaughn.
Good morning.
Morning. I support the 10-1 system for all the reasons we've already heard. I'm really glad that people are awake and listening and paying attention to what's going on. So I guess we all kind of know the dirty tricks that our city can play on us. And I just want to throw a little monkey wrench in here. There was a very brief mention of a survey going out, how much weight this survey is going to carry. And then you said, oh, well, you're going to get a thing in the mail or you can do it online. If this survey is going to carry a lot of weight, I want to know who's running the survey, who's counting the votes. I could vote twice. I just don't trust the city to throw these little nuggets in there that we don't notice and get their way against us again.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Henderson Vaughn, and the next speaker will be Janet James.
Good morning. My name is Henderson Vaughn. I used to be a club owner in the northern corridor for Newtown Road, one of the largest Afro-American clubs owned in Virginia Beach, open for 14 years. And historically, that's never been done before. But through the politics of the city of Virginia Beach and its system, they formed a group, took them to Richmond to say that we need to close it. And that's what they did. We employed minority people, black, white, Filipinos, Puerto Ricans, minority, much larger minority. We paid our taxes on time. If we had the system that we had now, I would have had better representation because it's about doing things that are correct. If you follow the law, if you follow the rules, then you can be successful. You cannot run a business for 14 years and all of a sudden something goes downhill. I'm in favor of the 10-1 system. We should not be looking back. We should be moving forward because our future generations depending on the right people to be in the seat. Because with all this gun violence going on, mental health issues, we don't have, why are we spending all these tax dollars in trying to reverse something instead of moving forward? Thank you.
Thank you.
The current speaker is Janet James. The next speaker will be Derek Thick.
Hi, my name is Janet James, and I've been a resident of Virginia Beach since 2019, and I really, really like it here. My comment is that first, I want to say thank you for the process. These postcards that y'all sent us or whoever sent us, not just in English, but in other languages, easy to read. I appreciate the process. I really do. Everybody's busy. But I started to throw it in the trash and then I read it and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is something important. And then my second comment is, whatever is decided, I hope they will build in some type of sunset clause or something where they will, in 10 years or, whatever time frame, look at, this is what was done. It was aspirational, it was working, but let's make sure whatever is decided is still working. So it's not 50 years and it's like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't working, or it should have not worked this way, or whatever the case is. So whether you track it with the census or whatever it may be, my recommendation or comment is to have something on the back end at some type of interval to make sure it's still working. So thank you.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Derek Fick. The next speaker will be Juanita Williams.
Morning.
Morning.
Yes, still morning. Yes, sir.
I'm Derek Fick, and I agree with the previous lady. I almost threw the trash because I turned it over so I could read it. At any rate, I've been a voter here in District 8, I live about a mile from here, for the last 24 years. And I've never missed an election, federal, state, local, primaries, and every one. And I pride myself on trying to educate myself on who the candidates are, what they represent, what they say they'll do, and sometimes don't. And I feel a little slighted by the 10-1 system in the fact that I felt I had better representation myself personally before. I voted for all of the council members in the city of Virginia Beach. I have another concern, has a little bit to do with government trust. But one of the things I've found over time is that there's a subject called gerrymandering that comes up. And that's accompanied by a district or representation within districts. I'm concerned about that happening, and at some point, somebody decides to gerrymander the districts in Virginia Beach. And I like the idea of at-large voting. In conclusion, I would tell you that I agree with the gentleman earlier that mentioned that we needed another system. I don't agree that 10-1 is correct, and at-large may be too broad. But I think we ought to have a system that uses both. District representation may work, but we should also have 3, I'd say maybe 5 at-large candidates. That way I feel that if I educate myself on what they represent, I can not only have my own district represented, but the entire city. Thanks for hearing.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Juanita Williams, and the next speaker will be Flyer Eteki. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any names.
Hi, my name is Juanita Williams, and I became a resident of Virginia Beach in 2009 when I retired from the military. I believe the old system was a gerrymander system. I have plenty of retired veterans here and people I know from the military. And guess what? We could gerrymander the system right now with the old system. The old system, I could tell all my friends to vote. When I retired and I became a Virginia resident instead of a California resident, when I voted, it was so many people on there. I said, well, hey, if I didn't know who it was, well, I'm gonna pick women first. I'm gonna pick women. We got tampon taxes, we got all the stuff. I just pick women first and then I just go from there, you know. People cannot afford to run for an entire city to represent an area. Also, with the new system, it would allow more diverse candidates to run because they won't have to raise a ton of money. You know, you got to put signs everywhere. You know, everywhere you go, people get there, they was like, I don't know who I'm voting for because I done seen the sign over here, over there. You know, council members didn't have to care about the area they represented as long as their friends around the city voted for them. And if they had connections in the city, they could stay on council forever. Because guess what? If you got a business here in Virginia Beach, you got a business over there, guess what? You got connections. I don't need people at the ocean front voting for Kempsville. Now with the new system, if the council member doesn't care about our district, we will vote them out, not all of Virginia Beach. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Meyera E. The next speaker will be Henry Rito.
All right, just stop. You're butchering my name too many times. Just stop. My name is Pilar Iteca, and I'm a native of Virginia Beach. My dad was fourth generation Virginia Beach, actually, when this city was founded. My great-grandmother and her sisters founded the Halifax Hotel and Seahawk Motel and the Avamere. Some of you all might remember those. So something that I'm concerned about is, I don't know enough about this. I missed the first part of this. But when I look around at the demographics in here, like, how are the younger people going to be educated about this? You know, the Bible says there's a safety in a multitude of counselors, and I appreciate the wisdom and the experience that's in this room. But I'm very concerned about the city saying we're going to do a random survey. Like one other person said, who is that going out to? How does the city pick that? The other thing, since my father and my grandfather were both city council members, I don't know, you know, with the 10-1 system, I can see some good things about that. The challenge is that, yes, you can, your district can be represented, but nothing gets done on city council unless you can get people to agree and understand and get behind your unique issue to your, so it's still a team thing. Like you've got to have consensus. Last thing I'm going to say, supposedly the city council elections are to be nonpartisan. I think they should absolutely be partisan. And even if somebody's an independent candidate or libertarian or Democrat, Republican, whatever it might be, because then there's some accountability to the voters of if you stand for what that party stands for, then you should be upholding that in your office as city council man or woman as well. And now it's like, oh, that somebody says it's nonpartisan, but then when you see how they're voting, and we've got too much at stake in this city with the school board and the city council, I guarantee you, if everybody in this room knew the laws that were passed by the state legislature and how they're being implemented locally in your public schools, you'd pull your kids and your grandkids out of the public schools yesterday. So that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. I just remind people if they agree, just raise your hand.
Our current speaker is Henry Rito. The next speaker will be Bill Fleming.
Hi, my name's Henry Britta, and I'm sitting behind the 10-1 system. For years, our city government has been stymied by political paralysis. The at-large voting system produced city council after city council that was unrepresentative of the residents as a whole. Therefore, council didn't move forward on major initiatives that were needed simply because they couldn't count on popular support for their policy line. There's been much consternation in the business community about the 10-1. However, there are other remedies that can be implemented that will alleviate their concerns about the 10-1 while still giving us residents the 10-1. I mean, in 2001, during the 2001 city redistricting process, Georgia, I, and others were down in the city council chambers trying to get district voting at that time. I don't think any of us imagined that 22 years later, we'd still be trying to fight that same fight. Please, keep the 10-1, embrace inclusion, and with that, we can finally move the city forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
The current speaker is Bill Fleming, and our next speaker will be Teresa Langille. Again, apologies if I mispronounce anyone's names.
Morning.
Hi, my name is Bill Fleming, and I'm here. I've been here since 1994.
I'm currently a Virginia Beach Director for the Soil and Water Conservation District, which is unpaid. And I'm also a representative on the Virginia Beach Open Space Advisory Committee, which is also unpaid. So these are two things I do to try to improve the environment in Virginia Beach. The previous system of electing city council members would be like all congressional representatives being elected by everybody in the entire state. Don Byer, up in the northwestern part of the state, would not be representing Virginia Beach. And somebody that was the representative here, whoever it happened to be, would not be capable of representing anybody in, say, Roanoke or Charlottesville. Also, at-large members, I agree with some previous people. At-large members tend to be backed by big money. So having several at-large members will skew the vote for people that have financial interests that may not be consistent with the people. In the previous system, since 1994, I've never gotten a response from an email from a city council member about any issue. And I think that tells a lot about where their priorities are. With the 10-1 system, more people can afford to also run for city council because it won't be as expensive. It's unnecessarily expensive to run and try to contact everybody in the city when you're only supposed to be representing a small section of it. The 10-1 system is also most in line with both Democratic and Republican principles of government, in that the representatives in the Republican form of government we have here are elected by democratically elected people of that particular district, not a large smear or a group of special interests. So I'm strongly in favor of the 10-1 system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Teresa Langell. The next speaker will be Ella Dunbar.
Hi, I'm Teresa Langell from District 10. That's where I live. I've lived there for like 30 years. Our district is very diverse. It is also very economically, a lot of people struggle economically. I've been very involved in elections. This is the first year that I was able to go around with a school board member who actually won and talk with the residents that were there, and they were very excited. The 30 years that I've lived there, because of the economic status of a lot of people there, there has been no one that has come to our doors. Money talks. With the 10-1 system, which I agree with, it is the very lowest form of government. This gentleman talked about a republic. We are a republic. We are not a democracy. We need representation at the lowest levels. And I really feel like that everybody who lives in District 10 has a much better opportunity to have someone represent them if they are voting for that person, campaigning for that person. Our candidates knocked 7,000 doors they were able to knock. You can't knock the whole city. You can't go around the whole city. Big money wins. All of our tax money, everything seems to support things that go on down at the ocean front. When we look at city council, we feel like there's like one voter. There's no one really there representing us. School board is the same thing. All of our schools, all of our kids in that area go to a few schools. We feel like we're able to have somebody to represent our community, our problems, and everything like that. So I support this system. I think it is the very, very basic nature of the United States of America and how we are a republic. I think this is the lowest form of government. This is where you have the most say. Washington doesn't care if my house floods. My representative does in my district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Ella Dunbar, and the next speaker will be Nevin Petrazak.
Good morning. I'm in favor of the 10-1 system. And I think if we're talking about doing anything with at-large candidates, that would not be good for us. At-large candidates are really a fail-safe for the special interests. I would prefer to have someone in my district to represent my interests. And I think a lot of what city council is focused on has been like the oceanfront. And I think that the interests of the oceanfront, I don't think I've ever had anyone go by the neighborhood that I grew up in to see what it was that we wanted. And we were a neighborhood with dirt roads, no city water, people had outhouses, and folks just drive by and act like they don't see it. Okay, so I think that you know, so much money is is directed to developers. I mean, you know, we had one developer more than a year ago that the city gave $18 million to renovate, and then came back later, excuse me, to renovate the Cavalier Hotel, then came back later and got the city to close a street at the oceanfront. We live here year round, and we would like to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labors also. I think a lot of folks also may have been upset with the election because they came in expecting that they could vote for all these people that they saw on TV and advertisements. They're going to come out and vote a slate of votes. And when they got there with the 10-1 system, they had to vote for what was going on in their district. And their city council member may not have been up for re-election. So they didn't have someone to vote for, but they still thought they would vote for all these other people. So they're kind of thinking something's amiss here. So I think we really do need to be doing a better job at educating people about what's going on. And let's see. And I think, you know, when we look at a lot of the candidates, when you look at the background of the candidates, what I found was there were so many ties to developers. There's so many ties to this real estate company, that real estate company. So the emphasis should be on your neighborhood, having somebody to represent what you need, because, you know, if you live there, you don't want your neighborhood to be one of those places that people want to just drive by and not look around. Okay, so, and as I've attended these meetings, I've also heard folks talk about, well, we need to get rid of drop boxes and we need to get rid of this or that or the other, because there's so much confusion as far as what they think is going on with at the polls or what have you. And if they would better educate themselves about how our elections are conducted, they will see how many fail-safes are in place, that if you send someone a ballot and then they show up at the election and to vote and realize that, oh, I don't have my ballot with me, well, that ballot will be voided and not counted, and then you'll be allowed to vote. Thank you.
Our current speaker is Nevin Petrazak, and following him will be Gilbert Sawyer. Okay, then our current speaker is Gilbert Sawyer. You're next.
You're current.
Good morning, everyone. Believe me, I don't need this. I have one of those voices everybody can hear, and it's amazing. I look around this room, and I've already been to one of these meetings, and it's all about the same color of hair, color of skin of people in the other meeting. And just remember how big this city is, and this is all we have coming out to talk about something that's going to affect everybody in this city. And we're all given this piece of paper. And I find this very amusing as an old Marine, because it's divided up in those districts or wards, as my brother Warrior talked about. I need that water. Anyway, these districts are supposed to be divided up by population. But when you look at the way these districts are drawn on these maps, and I've seen many maps as a Marine, it looks like a blind third grader drew these lines. They're all over the place. And then I love the way they numbered these. They're not in any numerical order or anything else. But I just happen to live in District 9. And I live right on Shore Drive. I have a Shore Drive address. I live in the Bay Lake Pines subdivision. And another thing this piece of paper talks about down here is under the 10-1 system, the representative of a given district can only be elected by residents of a given district. Only the mayor would continue to be elected under a large system. Think about how much sense that makes. We're going to actually vote for somebody in District 9, I am, that's going to represent me and the problems in District 9. Now, where I happen to live on Shore Drive, we really don't have a flooding problem there. Are there any folks here that live in the Bow Creek area? She can probably tell you all about flooding in that neighborhood. But first of all, one of the things you might like to know about me, that I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. My name is Gilbert Sawyer. I was actually born in DePaul Hospital on July the 10th, 1947. That makes me 75 years young. I spent 27 years in the United States Marine Corps, and like one of the other people mentioned here, traveled all over the world, came back to basically home. I've lived in the city of Virginia Beach since 1980. It was shortly after that I retired from the Marine Corps. I kept the home that I was living in.
15
Lived there.
seconds.
I'm 100% in favor of this 10-1 system. And what all of our elected officials, I found, have failed to realize, and that's one of the things I learned in the Marine Corps, is when two or more people get together, one of them's in charge. On that piece of paper over there, it talks about the University of Virginia. There's a slash mark, and the Wellington.
Sir, your time is up.
Wellington Cooper Center for Public Service.
Sir, if you could wrap it up because we have other.
Is that all you folks back here? They paid you how much money to hold this survey?
Sir, you had your 3 minutes. There are other people who want to speak, so there's other people who need to speak.
Okay, am I 3 minutes up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, though. Thank you. All right. All right. Online? Is it online? There's no, I apologize. All right, so if we could bring it, because my understanding there were people online to speak or?
So there are no more registered individuals in person. There is one person I see who's connected to the phone queue.
All right.
But they have not indicated that they want to speak. For that person who's listening, if you do wish to make comment, press star to enter the menu and select option 3. But otherwise, I have no additional speakers.
So all he was doing was asking the person that's online if they wanted to speak to go into the queue. So that was the direction. The question, I can't answer questions, but you can state it and then we. Yes. Oh, yeah, no, yeah, we did at the beginning, Charnel hearing with the Weldon Cooper Center, as well as Jane Dittmar, the Weldon Cooper Center, and Elise, at the Weldon Cooper Center as well. So, all right, so, right, if yes, if you can come to the mic, and then we got about only 10 minutes, and I need to close it up. Is this a new? Yes, sir. Oh, no. Yes, if you could come to the mic so that make sure that we get everything in the transcript. Thank you.
I just want to add to what I said before, that those people that during this last election, you saw a lot of contention. I think the 10-1 brings and really reins in crony capitalism, which we see a lot here. And I just wanted to add that there's a lot of corruption and a lot of money being spread around. So crony capitalism actually will destroy this country. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
So before everyone leaves, I just want to wrap up, just for some people who came late, is that please ask everybody to spread the word. We have more hearings. There will be 7 more. This was the 5th. There will be, again, as we mentioned earlier, and I'm sure the city can tell you more about it, there will be a random survey. You can get it up online as well. The findings will be provided to the city, and there will be a decision by city council later this summer. So thank you all for being here and being part of this process.